Hey, happy February marketing assistance video. And this topic is going to be on balance sheets and comparing them from the 22 balance sheets to the 23 balance sheets. And the reason this topic I thought would be important because when I'm talking to people, there's concern on the farm about what that is going to look like as far as profitability, as far as what that balance sheet and bottom line looks like for 23 compared to 22. Because let's be honest, 22 actually ended up being a pretty good year, unless you're still sitting on everything and it's unsold, then maybe not. So, February of 23, let's talk about some balance sheets. So, the information that I am going to be recalling is from universities as well as the USDA. So this is not my own information. Okay, I got this from universities as well as the USDA. We're going to be talking about farm assets and what the value of those assets are, especially comparing them 22 to 23. And same thing on farm debts, comparing the farm debts from 22 to 23. And then the bottom line is what is our farm asset ratio, that debt to asset ratio, what is that going to be towards the end of this year? And then we're going to talk a little bit about liquidity and working capital. So, what's it boil down to? Assets. We're talking about crop value. We're talking about the value of animal production when they're sold. We're talking about value of real estate. And that's the big one. Let's be honest. When they're doing those calculations, that value of your real estate, the value of your land is going to be a big part of your asset value. And machinery is in there as well. On the debt side, we're going to be talking about real estate debt. Since we're going to be talking about real estate value, there's going to be real estate debt. There's going to be storage debt. And there's going to be crop production costs. So that's going to be in that debt side. So boil down, I'll get right to it. In 2023, they see an increase not only in the asset value, but also in the debt on the farm this year. It's probably not a big surprise. Good news, hey, our assets are going up. Our income and our revenue is going up. Downside, our debt is going up as well. On the asset side, the real estate is making up the majority of that part of the equation. So I saw anywhere from 80 to 85% goes into the real estate value. But also too, crops, machinery, those values are also expected to go up in 2023 compared to 2022, but not nearly as dramatic of an increase as what the increase in real estate value is going to be. Now, on everything I read, they were talking about how animal values, animal production, animal revenue was going to go down this year compared to the 22 year. I'm going to push back on that a little bit. And here's some of my reasoning. So we're at historically high levels right now for most animal products. And then we're going to go into summer, which we usually see a continued increase of the current price that we have right now. So I'm going to push back a little bit that I don't necessarily think that animals are going to be a decrease in value in the 23 calendar year. If anything, I think it's going to be an increase in value from 22 to 23, unless here's the caveat, unless you had to be one of those that liquidated. And so maybe it was liquidation because of the drought conditions out west. You couldn't keep the animals on your pasture. There just wasn't enough rain to support them. or if you're maybe in the Eastern Corn Belt and you just didn't want to pay those replacement costs. So in those situations, I could see how your particular balance sheet may not go up in value for the animal production, but I think in general it will. Okay, that's my little rant there. So assets increasing in value compared to last year. Now let's move on to debt. Debt in both the real estate as well as the non-real estate is expected to increase. And listen to this quote. Farm non-real estate debt is expected to increase 2.8%, but remain stable when adjusted for inflation. Okay, that's the quote. What does that necessarily mean? It means that production for everything, those costs are going up. And probably doesn't matter if you're making tennis shoes or if you're growing corn. So just making those products, the production cost increases. So with inflation of all of that increasing, it's not out of whack. It's yes, paying more for the crop to be grown, paying more for the crop to go into that next phase, or cattle, kind of that same type of thing, livestock, same type of thing. But when you're comparing it with inflation, it's not out of whack. It is in line. It is stable. So paying more, but everybody's paying more. So now comparing the two. So we said asset values were going to go up. We said debt was going to go up in 23 as well. So how do those compare? Do we see them rising at the same rate, or do we see them rising at different rates? And the consensus amongst USDA and the universities is that we're going to see the debt increase more than what we're going to see the asset value increase. So in this number, the lower, the better. So the lower your debt to asset ratio, the better. And everybody was showing us, and I'm going to say slight increase in the debt to asset ratio from 23 to 22, or from 22 to 23. So I think that's good. Okay, it is going to go up. We are going to take on more debt, but it's not a huge increase. Banks look at your liquidity. Banks look at your working capital. So working capital is going to be like if you sold out, and what cash would be available to pay off those expenses that are due within 12 months. So that 12-month debt that it takes. So what does that look like? In 2023, working capital is forecasted to decrease compared to 22. So there's just going to be less cash available on the farm than what we were seeing in 22. And I know in my neck of the woods, we have seen an increase in working capital. It's just, you see it. You can feel it. It doesn't matter if it's livestock auction, it doesn't matter if it's a machinery auction, real estate, land, farm ground. We have seen the money kind of fly around this past year. So they're saying that's going to decrease. Again, not a huge amount, but decrease some. And I'll be honest, I think that's the important part. Managing that working capital, being able to work on increasing your revenue, increasing the value of your assets, great. And keeping your debts low and paying attention what that looks like for the next 12 months. And then paying attention then for the next 12 months of what that looks like. On a side note, there was some notes here and there about interest rates. And what that really boils down to is storage costs. And with the increase in storage costs, there is a line item on your balance sheet that you probably haven't had maybe in almost a decade. There is a cost now because of interest rates of what it costs to that debt and to service that debt to keep corn or beans from fall delivery to January to February to March to April and so on. And so again, it was mentioned in a couple of papers, but I really want to point it out that make sure on your balance sheet that you're figuring up storage cost. And it's more than what you have figured the last couple of years because your interest that you're paying on that is higher than what we've had, like I said, about the last decade. So don't forget that. Don't maybe you've never experienced it before. Maybe you just started farming here in the next couple of years and you're like, cost of storage? What's that? you know, and for those that have been doing this for a couple of decades, you know what cost of storage is. So make sure that is getting figured into what it costs to hold grain from month to month and make sure that is going in on your balance sheet because it is a true cost. It really is. So keep that in mind. I already know what next month's video is going to be. It's going to be on courage calls. And the reason is I think this is a perfect time for courage calls. So I'm going to describe what courage calls are, give a couple examples of how you can use courage calls, because like I said, a year like this is a great opportunity for courage calls. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. Hopefully the audio is better. I tried to upgrade that compared to last month. This is an experiment, so going to continue to see how it goes. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in March. Thanks. Bye.